Hello, everyone, and welcome. My name is Henry. I'm with BlueJeans Support. During this presentation, if you do have any issues or additional questions you might have about the platform itself, please feel free to reach out on the right-hand side of your screen using the moderator chat that will go direct to me, and I'll be more than happy to help you during this time. If you have any questions, though, for the presenters or any questions about the products and information that you see today, please use on the right-hand side of your screen the Q&A section. This is your question area. You can simply post those questions, and we'll be going through questions during the Q&A time at the end. So at any time, feel free to send us questions if you have anything. Thank you very much again for attending, and I'm going to hand it over to Joe Mann.
Thanks, Henry, and thanks everyone for joining us today here on using our BlueJeans events platform for covering the BlueJeans Gateway for Microsoft Teams. I am joined by Shri from Microsoft, and Shri, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Hi, everybody. I'm Srividya Chandrasekaran. I'm a Senior Program Manager at Microsoft.
Great. Thanks again for joining us today. And again, I'm Joe Mann. I manage sales engineering here at BlueJeans, and Shri and I will be taking some time individually to go through the team strategy itself on the Microsoft side, some of the research they've done, and also an overview and introduction to the BlueJeans Gateway for Microsoft Teams, and also how you can find out some additional information here moving forward. So we're going to start off with a little bit about the BlueJeans and Microsoft Alliance, some of the history that we've had and how we've partnered together to this point. We'll learn about Microsoft Teams itself, as I mentioned, some of the research and statistics that Microsoft has come up with and why they built Teams the way they did, and then also take that into the specific BlueJeans Gateway for Microsoft Teams and how we extend the value of Teams and allow you to leverage investments in room systems. Coming out of that, we'll give you some information to take some next steps if you want to find out more, possibly get a demo and see the Teams Gateway for yourself. And then we're going to leave some time at the end for some Q&A as well. So as Henry mentioned, there is a Q&A feature within BlueJeans events here. So go ahead and open up that Q&A tab, type in and ask any questions anytime, and we'll field those towards the end here. I want to start off with a little bit of history of BlueJeans here for those of you that may not be aware of us here or have maybe a limited exposure to BlueJeans. We launched our first product in 2011, and we were built in the cloud to be a native video, audio, and screen sharing application for web conferencing, meetings, events, really any sort of type of video meeting that you're going to have in your organization. We've got 1 billion cloud-connected room system minutes. That's one of our founding principles was interoperability with standards-based room systems, so we've got quite a bit of experience in that realm. Looking back at our partnership and history with Microsoft here, when BlueJeans first launched in 2011, the first thing we did actually was connect consumer Skype with H323 conference rooms. It was something that had never been done before, and the rest, as they say, is history from there. We matured on to offer different products and services and endpoint support, and along the way, Microsoft has been someone we've worked alongside to integrate not only in-meeting experiences with Skype for Business and Microsoft Lync, but also from a workflow perspective with Outlook add-in support and now Office 365 add-ins. And today, the subject of discussion here are Teams Gateway, which has officially launched. It is now widely available for all customers and is a certified product for Microsoft Teams. So we're very excited to announce that and tell you a little bit more about that today. The feedback has been overwhelmingly positive in our early evaluations and really is a great fit for extending the value of Teams. So with that, I want to hand it over to Shri, who's going to cover a little bit about Teams itself from a Microsoft perspective. So Shri, over to you.
So far, we've been talking about Teams Gateway and BlueJeans' collaboration with Microsoft and what we have done in that front. Let's ask the fundamental question. Why is this important? In the modern workplace, we are realizing that over 45% of the users actually use some kind of tools at work that enhance collaboration. They are either social or mobile tools. In addition, the expectation is that about 80% of the workers are going to be remotely working by 2020. So what does that mean for companies like us, like BlueJeans and Microsoft? How can we make sure we are actually enhancing the productivity in those scenarios for those remote employees? Um, in addition to that, the complexity of modern workplace is quite vast. We have a lot of tools available. We have a lot of information available to the not just the consumers, not just the employees, but first line workers as well as managers. Over 60% of the time, people are looking for the data that they need, that they know they have somewhere in the Outlook. For example, we have had, personally, I've had data that is in my Outlook somewhere, and yet I'm actually looking for it, trying to figure out, is this the right data for the right time? So now we have come up with Teams, and let's see how Teams can actually solve this for us. We have had Skype for Business in the past, which does a bunch of things that Teams already does. But what makes Teams so special and so important and so critical for Office 365 platform? As you see in the screen here, Teams provides your basic communication capabilities like chat, meetings, and calling. These are essential for any employee, whether you are a first line worker or whether you are a back office worker or whether you are an executive. These are some of the very critical tasks that you do on your day-to-day work structure. Teams provides a capability for all of these things. In addition, it also provides collaboration capabilities. For example, if you have embedded files, I don't have to go back and figure out where did I actually put my files. Are they in my desktop? Are they version 1, 2, or 3? I have embedded Teams right here. It saves my files, it saves my history, and it's all powered by OneDrive for Business in the back. So that means I don't have to go through the trouble of actually looking for where my things are. I have not just embedding for my first party Office 365 applications like Excel or Word or OneNote. In addition, we also provide you to be able to customize and extend the Teams experience with custom third-party application. For example, you may be a user of Smartsheet, or you may be a user of Trello, or some other third-party app. How is it that we can bring all of these third-party apps right here as with Teams as a hub where you can actually access it and use it and just keep everything that you need right there? You don't ever have to leave the Teams canvas. That's the goal that we are striving towards. The most importantly, the last statement that I mentioned in my previous slide is, how do you make sure that you have the right data when you need it, where you need it, available in your hand? Whether it is a dashboard, or whether it is a file, or whether it is a conversation message from one of your colleagues, you can find it right here on Teams, either in your chats or channels or your files or OneNote, or even your pinned dashboard or your third party app. Just to summarize it, basically you have everything available in Teams, and Teams is a hub, and we are making sure that we enable the productivity to peak for whoever is the user that's using Teams. Now let's come back to the actual significance of why Teams, and what is it that it's doing better than what it did for Skype for Business for Office 365. Teams has as I mentioned in my previous slide, Teams has a much more richer feature capabilities. For example, if you want to go back and look at your previous conversations with a particular person, in Skype for Business, you would have to go back to your exchange and look through your chat history. However, in Teams, it's just a matter of scrolling up through your chat channel. In addition, there is intelligence in the communication. If you are searching for someone, Teams is smart enough to bring up who are the most recent contacts that you've been chatting with, who is the last person that you have had the most collaboration with. Perhaps you are trying to reach back to the same person. In addition, from a user experiences point of view, we have tried to make the experience very simple and very intuitive. Not just from where you do collaboration or chat, but how do you find your calls? How do you find your recent history? And how do you find your meetings right there that you can go ahead and get started? Last but not the least, most importantly, from an operations perspective, Teams is a cloud-born, cloud-built application. It runs on Azure, the service that's completely powering our Teams infrastructure as well as many other Microsoft service infrastructure. You get the redundancy, the quality, and the high availability of Azure being in multiple data centers, and therefore Teams from a performance perspective is already at a elevated state compared to what we were compared to Skype for Business online. Next one, Joe. Yeah. So why is this session important? Why am I doing this with BlueJeans? So that's the important questions there. Having said all that about Teams, there's one important aspect of what we want to bring into the Teams ecosystem. A lot of our enterprise customers have already made, as part of other UC provider that they had in their environment, they've made investments in other non-Teams devices for their VTCs as well as meeting rooms. These are very expensive to upgrade. If you want to replace a VTC inside of a meeting room, it is not just the device or the VTC itself, but you have your inbuilt speaker, your microphone. All of that could potentially be custom depending on what was your previous teleconferencing system in the room. What we have done is actually bring those devices into Teams via cloud video interop. Joe just mentioned earlier that we have launched BlueJeans gateway for Microsoft Teams, which is the cloud video interop solution that connects third-party devices like your Cisco devices, your Huawei devices, your Polycom devices into Teams meetings using BlueJeans service as a gateway to connect the devices into the Teams ecosystem. Next one, Joe. Also, what are some of the typical interoperability challenges? We have had interoperability starting all the way from Skype for Business and even before. Some of the interoperability challenges we have had is basically scheduling. When somebody is trying to schedule a meeting, how do you make sure that you have the right coordinates that is enabling the device to join into a meeting? In addition, how do you make sure that the meeting join itself is seamless, that you don't require any client-side plugin? You just dial in coordinates and you're able to join. How do we make sure we enable one-touch dial? And in addition, how do we, for a user that is actually scheduling a meeting, they don't really have to know who is on the other side of the bridge. How is the meeting experience looking for a Teams user? Is he able to see the VTC differently? We don't believe it should be. So we have tried to make that experience very seamless for the user on Teams. Last but not the least, the purchasing and administration decision as well. How can we make sure that enabling interop for Teams is as simple as running a couple of PowerShell commandlets and making sure that these are correctly configured, just similar to how other Teams user capabilities are configured. Next one, Joe. Actually, switch to the next slide. All right. So having said all of that, let's see what we have going for cloud video interops. We have enabled cloud video interop for Teams with 3 partners. BlueJeans gateway has gone GA as of yesterday. These are the only supported and certified solution provided by Microsoft. They are co-engineered with Microsoft. We have also had joint TAP. I'm sure many of you guys probably were already part of the TAP program for us, but we have had a joint tap and obtained customer feedback before we launch these. In addition, this cloud video interop product is enterprise ready, meaning it can support several video streams. It can support your HD video as well as content via VBSS. It can support both SIP and H323 native devices. In addition, Microsoft has done work in order to make sure that the minute these are enabled using BlueJeans, the native exchange scheduling kicks in and we are able to add those specific coordinates. In addition, what is the experience on the Teams user side? If you look at the image over here, one of them is actually through an interop solution via a third-party VTC, something like a Cisco device. However, from a Teams user perspective, that device looks like a very native experience. They can look at it in the roster. They can remove the device or remove the user from the roster. From an experience perspective, it's a very native experience on the Teams client, even though the device is a non-Teams device. In addition, as I mentioned before, the solution Teams itself is built on Azure, and our solution for video interop is actually built for Azure, built on Azure, and it scales with the Azure cloud solutions. Next one, Joe. With that, I hand it over to Joe to give us a detailed walkthrough of the BlueJeans gateway and how it is built and its capabilities.
Great. Thank you very much, Sri. Appreciate the overview on Teams. And as someone myself who has started to use Teams as well, I appreciate the updates and changes that Microsoft has done. And as Office 365 users here at BlueJeans, it integrates seamlessly across different applications. So exciting news there from Microsoft. Now from the BlueJeans side, I do want to cover where we fit in with our gateway for Microsoft Teams and how that integrates with your existing Teams environment. So first thing I want to talk about is how do you know if you are going to be a fit for the BlueJeans gateway for Microsoft Teams? So there are a few key components to keep in mind. First and foremost, are you an organization that's committed to Microsoft Teams? Do you want to have Teams be your standard IM presence, meeting, file sharing application across the board? And would you like to standardize on a single solution? That's certainly something that is the primary indicator that you're a good fit there. Do you have existing investments in the standards-based room systems from some of the common manufacturers, Cisco, Polycom, LifeSite, and others that you want to continue to leverage along with your investment in your team strategy? Also, are you a company that wants to move to the cloud, or are you a cloud-first organization? Do you want to have a software as a service offering to turn on and scale at any point to meet the needs of your organization as you're future-proofing a lot of your technology solutions? So those are three great indicators that you are going to be a fit. And specific here to BlueJeans, what are the things that we offer, some of the features and advantages with the Teams gateway here to allow an even better experience for your end users? First and foremost is that single touch join experience. This is something that we've been doing for quite a while with room systems to be able to enable a one-touch join when you schedule and invite a room to a meeting, to walk in as an end user, see the name of your meeting, and touch join to make that end user experience as seamless as possible and remove the complexity from needing to grab the remote, dial an IP address, meeting IDs, get that out of the picture and create that single touch join experience. Those existing investments, that's been part of our strategy from day one here at BlueJeans. We are software in the cloud. We want to help you enable the leveraging of the investment that you have in hardware solutions, whatever your choice might be for the meeting service you use. So with the Teams gateway, again, we're allowing that leveraging of the existing hardware investments as long as you'd like to keep those active. As a cloud native service in general, we've embraced that with the Teams gateway. We were built in the cloud to be a cloud service, and we've done the same with our Teams gateway here. And as Sri mentioned, the Teams itself is hosted in Azure. The BlueJeans gateway for Microsoft Teams is hosted in Azure as well. So it is native in the Microsoft environment, lives right alongside your Teams deployment in Office 365, making that handoff seamless with bringing those existing room systems into Teams meetings. Looking at some of the high-end or high-level, I should say, architecture and also user join flow here. We have, again, the BlueJeans gateway hosted in Azure. It is a gateway and not a VMR, as Sri was mentioning. So this is something where we transcode all of the necessary information to allow those room systems to come into Teams calls, but it is a native Teams experience. So that image that Sri had up earlier of the people in the Teams call, one of them was on a standards-based room systems. You couldn't even tell because of the way that we are integrating those systems into the call to make it look and feel like any other Teams client. Because it's also all in the cloud, there is no on-premise enablement required. It's just some licensing that needs to be done, and you can be easily turned on for the gateway and enabled immediately for those room systems and all of your desktop and mobile users to be in the same place at the same time, having productive Teams calls. So talking more about the end user experience here, I want an opportunity to provide a quick demo for you. Ted Fox, who is the product owner on our side of the Teams Gateway. Unfortunately, he couldn't be with us today, but he did record a quick overview of what the end user experience looks like from scheduling to joining to participating in a Teams meeting leveraging the gateway. So let's go ahead and take a look at that video and what the end user experience looks like.
In today's workforce, real-time collaboration is used more than ever, be it chat, web conferencing, and video conferencing. BlueJeans has always been there to help fill that need. We have partnered with Microsoft to bring the BlueJeans Gateway for Microsoft Teams. It's a native, cloud-based infrastructure to get your H323 and SIP endpoints into a Teams meeting, such as Polycom, Cisco, LifeSize. Now we can provide a gateway to get into a Teams meeting without having to change anything on your infrastructure. Scheduling a meeting is easy. You can use either the Teams client or the Outlook add-in. All you have to do is add in your meeting title, invite your attendees, put a location as in room, and hit schedule a meeting. When you walk into the room, the touch panel of the room will have a list of all the meetings that are scheduled for that room. Press join, and within seconds, the user is into the Teams meeting. From the Teams client, you can do everything a Teams meeting can do. You can chat, share files, share content from the Teams content wirelessly, and just collaborate. BlueJeans leverages your existing infrastructure, be it Cisco, LifeSize, or Polycom, to give you that one button to push ease of use. Now we're turning boardrooms, huddle rooms, and conference rooms into full collaboration rooms.
All right, well, thanks to Ted for putting that together, and wish he could have been here with us today. And now you have an idea of what that experience looks like for the end users here. And I'd like to move on to just a couple of comments that we are hearing out from the field. Sri mentioned that we did have a few customers participate in the Microsoft TAP, which is their technology adoption program, gives you early access to some products and features. So we got some great feedback from those who are participating and also just a few people out there within the industry for the value that the Teams Gateway provides, how seamless it works with their existing investments, and being a cloud-native solution, just how well it fits in there. So great feedback so far from the field. So coming out of this, if you'd like to get some more information about the Teams Gateway and how we can help you get started here, we've got a couple of informational resources set up. One is our website. You can go to bluejeans.com/teams-gateway to get some basic information on the Teams Gateway itself and how to get started and how the product itself works. Also, if you'd like to reach out for us just for any additional questions, insight, or if we could help set up a demo for you, you can email us at microsoft@bluejeans.com, and we can redirect you to the appropriate person internally here. Or if you are already an existing BlueJeans customer, or if you have someone you've been working with, feel free to reach out to your BlueJeans account manager to have them set up a demo and a conversation from here. So we're certainly looking forward to speaking with you on that. With that, I do want to hand it back over to Henry, who's been taking a look at the Q&A for us. I think there's been some activity there, and we'd like to make sure to allow some time for Q&A here. So, Henry, what are we seeing inside the Q&A?
Yeah, thank you. So I would like to go through the questions by their how many people have liked them. So do take a look at the Q&A section, and you'll notice that there's a little like button that you can like on different questions if you really want that question to be answered. So I'm going to kind of start on what the most popular questions are here today. And the first one is, can BlueJeans Gateway leverage all the features of Teams, closed captioning, recording, transcription, so forth? And can it also be leveraged as a gateway in live broadcasts?
Good question. Yeah, go ahead, Sri.
So at the moment, what we have enabled in the Teams Gateway is basic functionality of the device itself joining into a Teams meeting, bidirectional audio, video, as well as content sharing from the Teams into the VTC. We are adding new features, and if you have feature asks for some of the specific features that you would like to see, please go ahead and email us, and we will make sure that we are evaluating those for our subsequent updates.
All right, thank you very much. And next question here is, you mentioned licensing. So is there an additional license cost on the BlueJeans side or the Microsoft side for the BlueJeans gateway?
Yeah, I can take the BlueJeans question there. So yeah, on our side, we do have, there's additional licensing there. So it is an add-on to your existing E3 or E5 licenses you might have with Office 365. We do per user licensing to match that of how Microsoft structures theirs, but that would be a BlueJeans specific purchase with our own licensing.
On the Microsoft side, we do not charge anything extra. Basically, if you have Teams using your E5, E3 or any other Teams license, you should be able to use the product as long as you have got this enabled and purchased via BlueJeans.
Thank you very much. And yeah, we did have additional question about the costs, but I think we just answered that. So the next question.
Real quick, Henry, actually, so we do have tiered pricing, so it varies, but we're happy to follow up with additional information because it all depends on the number of licenses that you'd like to purchase. So it's all it's customized tiered pricing there.
Would that also apply to this question here? How does the cloud interrupt cost? Is it a cost per point?
Yeah, that's all related there. So we do pricing per user, not necessarily per concurrent connection or per endpoint there. So when a user has that ability added to their Office 365 tenant, the additional information to dial into the Teams gateway automatically gets added to every Teams meeting that's scheduled, and that user has unlimited use of the gateway along with any Teams meeting that they have.
All right, fantastic. We have another question here. We just started using Teams a few months ago, and it feels like folks are creating teams without discipline. So this is a usage question. Are there, as there are too many of them, is there best practice to follow when creating these teams?
It's interesting. I get this question every so often. It's sort of similar to when SharePoint first came on board and everybody started creating a SharePoint team for themselves, right? Organically, for some of the smaller companies, we have seen that they just create teams on the fly. But for a larger company like Microsoft, we actually, just to give an example, for the entire Teams organization, we have a team and we have several channels inside of it that cater to various core areas that we want to deal with: program management or engineering or telemetry or specific areas there. That's one approach you could take. However, if you have like specific teams that you want where you actually want to have external users, those you would have to create your own team. Bottom line is, when you get started and using it, there is an excitement around it and everybody wants to create teams and have ownership of the team. But at some point there is some kind of a governance that either automatically organically evolves, or the IT admin sort of start enforcing a governance model around it. Bottom line is, we give you the capability. You guys can figure out what is the best approach that would work for your organization and go with it. We're not artificially putting any limits on it, but it's up to you guys to kind of evolve and learn and see what is the best practice for your organization.
Thank you. Here's a great question, though, for you. Why has Microsoft decided to partner rather than build your own? So instead of, why have you decided to do these partnerships instead of building it within Office 365?
That's a great question. Actually, we've gotten that question multiple times. What we recognize is our partners have specific skill set. They are the industry leaders in interop. They are the industry leaders in providing this kind of scale service for this capabilities. And hence we have decided to partner with our specific partners in order to leverage on the skill set that they have built over years, rather than us going and building an interop solution. Microsoft's primary investment is on how do we build capabilities on Teams and enhance the Teams experiences, and therefore we are bringing in partners in for those experiences that we want, where they are the industry leaders, and bringing them into our ecosystem.
Great. And so this is a question from somebody who, they're asking, is it a hardware or software device? But really it's about, does it need to be installed? So is there any installation involved with this on their data center or any setup in that way?
BlueJeans is purely a cloud-based service solution. Like I said, we have 3 partners in the video interop for TeamSpace, and BlueJeans specifically is a service-based model. And therefore, you don't require anything to be installed. There is a bit of provisioning that as an IT admin or tenant admin, you will need to do and consent the BlueJeans app to be able to join to your meeting. But beyond that, you wouldn't need to do any on-prem or on your enterprise deployment. There is a small component you would need to add if you want one-touch dial, which is to use your relay. But other than that, there is not a requirement to install anything on your enterprise.
Yep.
Terrific. You also said about centralized reporting. Is there also those centralized management and administration for this?
So BlueJeans is already providing reporting capabilities inside of the BlueJeans platform itself. We are working with BlueJeans. We are continuing to work with BlueJeans to see how we can expose our Microsoft side of the data to BlueJeans and BlueJeans side of data to Microsoft. But those will be something that we'll be looking at in future iterations of the product.
Yeah, to add to that, Microsoft has their own reporting, as Sri covered a little bit earlier, and BlueJeans has our own analytics platform, which we call Command Center. So we're going to be able to leverage some of the APIs on the Microsoft side to bring in some data. So you, as someone who is using BlueJeans Gateway for Teams, has some analytics that you can look at both on our side and the Microsoft side, so that you can get the type of analytics and reporting that you need holistically across the organization.
Okay, we've got a lot of questions coming in, guys, so I'm going through with them here as we can. So here's one. What is the best way to track open tasks on a given team? Are they built into the PM tools within Teams, or do I have to install a PM app?
Like I said, we are adding more capabilities in order to specifically add, have your tasks and track them. There is native Office tools that you can use, which will be still more of an embedded app, or you can also have third-party tools that you can use at the moment. Inside of a Teams chat itself, I don't believe we have capabilities to actually mark a specific item as task or assign it to a certain person. But these are, any feedback requests, any additional features that will be useful to you, please shoot us an email, and we are happy to evaluate that as part of our subsequent iterations on the Teams itself.
Okay, this is a layout question here. So when using this, are you restricted to the Teams video layouts, or is this something that's configurable? So when you're using Teams, are we using the BlueJeans layouts or the Teams video layouts?
On the Teams client, you will be actually seeing just the Teams layout, because that's how we want the experience to look as native as possible. On the BlueJeans side, you will actually be seeing the BlueJeans layout, and if I'm correct, that is actually configurable.
Yes.
So do you want to add to it?
Yep. Yeah. So we have our own layout options that we have on the BlueJeans side. So as Sri said, as a Teams user, you see the standard Teams layout. If you are on a standards-based room system, you'll have a few different layouts available to you. Anything from a full screen active speaker view to a primary view of an active speaker in a film strip, or the active presence view, or the constant presence view, which we call it, which is more like the Hollywood Squares or the Brady Bunch view, where you have a grid of up to 9 people on screen. So those can be changed via the on-screen menu that we have for each room systems, and those are customizable for each system that joins in.
Great. Okay. Here we go. How do I know if my particular video conferencing system will be compatible with the BlueJeans gateway?
Sure, I can take that one. Yeah, so the great thing about it is we haven't necessarily focused on specific manufacturers. It's all about the standards they use to connect, which overwhelmingly all of the systems that you see out there, if you walk into a conference room, it's likely going to be something that is H.323 or SIP-based, which includes, as I mentioned, the major manufacturers like Cisco, Polycom, and Lifesize, but also can include many others. So chances are whatever you have in your conference room today is going to be able to be leveraged with our gateway, or if you are a company that uses potentially just a PC in a room with a USB speaker and microphone, that's actually where the Teams client itself could be running on that computer and handle Teams calls natively. So really almost anything you have in your conference room today can be used with Teams, whether that's something that's native or something you're using through the BlueJeans gateway.
Great. How does this compare to the Prexip and Polycom? So how does it compare to what others are offering then?
Sure. Yeah, I take that one too. So Shri did mention there are 3 certified partners, and that's us and Pexip and Polycom, and we've all got a little bit of our unique flavor. So Pexip is you'll find is a primarily on-premise or hybrid solution. If that's something that is important to you, that to keep it on-premise, that's something where they focus on that solution. We are 100% focused in the cloud, as we talked about earlier, and hosted, and that's what our company is built on. So you'll see some others that may host it. We focus on being the cloud native company. And also, as time goes on, you'll see features released that add more capabilities on the back end. So our analytics and reporting through Command Center, the enhancement of not only the one-touch join option, but bringing BlueJeans rooms into that mix as well. So not only allowing them to join BlueJeans meetings, but Teams meetings to give you more flexibility and interop there, and a whole host of other planned additions and enhancements that Ted Fox, our product manager, is working on in the background that we'll be releasing over time to add our own unique value to what BlueJeans offers.
Oh, great. Great. We've got, like I said, a lot more questions coming in. And is there a future enhancement that won't require any BlueJeans or Teams desktop client? So like video, audio calls that can take place entirely in the browser. So is there going to be future integration with that?
I think I'll let you handle that one, Shri. It sounds like they're asking if Teams is compatible in the browser at all, or plans for that.
Teams, that's why I was a little unclear on the question. Teams can run on the browser itself without requiring the desktop client. It can do audio and video on IE, and we are adding that to Chrome. So I'm not sure I understand the question on whether BlueJeans is compatible with Teams in that sense. Perhaps it needs a bit more clarification.
We do have a lot of Teams usage questions here, actually. So if we want to start using Teams chat before fully integrating Teams, can we restrict permissions so that no one can create new teams?
There are IT admin settings. If you could go into your Office 365 portal and look at your IT admin settings, there are certain things that can be enabled and certain things that can be disabled. So you could just go through that and see what works for you guys or not.
Okay, and will Teams have mute sync with my huddle room system over USB like SFB does? If so, how do you implement this?
I don't believe we have it now. I'll have to follow up on that question. So, Henry, if you just want to send that question over to me, I can chat with our meetings and devices folks specifically. And I'm assuming this is a question for the native Teams devices, right? Not the interop solution. I'm trying to clarify there.
Yeah, I can definitely send that over to you, and that would be something. Yeah, so everyone, if we don't get to your questions today, we are recording all these questions, so they will be, all looked at afterwards, and we can definitely do some follow-up then with you if we have who posted it. So wonderful.
Yeah, I think I did see a question too about if this content was being recorded. So we are recording this session, and as Henry mentioned, also the questions that are being asked are recorded as well. So we'll post this up on our website for those that couldn't make it today or want to share it with others, and make sure that any questions that couldn't get answered today, we can follow up appropriately, whether that's a BlueJeans or Microsoft related question.
Right. We have had several questions regarding the BlueJeans events platform as comparison to the meetings platform. Is the Teams going to be integrating with events as well with BlueJeans, or is that going to be strictly the meetings?
Yeah, that's actually a good question. So I could clarify a little bit, because the Teams Gateway that we're offering is a separate product and is actually completely separate from our core architecture. So some of you might be familiar with BlueJeans meetings events and rooms, which we do offer. So the Teams Gateway is a separate offering and really designed for a separate use case for end users. So if you are an organization that has chosen to standardize on Teams, that's your meetings platform, you want to use it really for everything, that's where the Teams Gateway comes into play, because it's an additional component that allows that interoperability. But it is not a BlueJeans hosted meeting coming and being mixed in with a Teams meeting. It is a gateway that opens up the ability for those room systems to join in, but that's a Teams hosted call. So it's not necessarily a cross connection between some of our core services that we have in Teams. It is a separate product offering that's hosted in Azure, separate from our core infrastructure to allow that interoperability. So if Teams is your chat client and you're looking for something that externally, that's where potentially BlueJeans Meetings comes in. But the Teams Gateway again is a separate product that is hosted separately, priced separately, and really used for just that specific use case.
Here's another two-in-oneer. Will this allow us to bridge external attendees into any meetings scheduled via Teams? So can we have people that are not part of our organization, that have no access to Teams, join? And could this also then be used with the Skype room system?
So our goal for this is to get third-party devices into Teams rather than actually, for example, if you do have a user that doesn't have any Teams, if they're on a device, sure, they can actually just use BlueJeans Gateway from their Cisco device inside of their enterprise and join into the Teams meeting. For other scenarios, if it is pure Teams scenarios, we expect them to actually use the Teams client, even if they don't require even if they don't have an account on the Office 365 platform. And what was the second question there, Henry?
So are you able to connect in Skype room systems with the Skype room system? Mm-hmm.
With the Skype room system, we have a couple of other alternatives we are looking at. But for this one, we are purely keeping it as a third-party room system that you are able to connect. And the architecture for Skype room system is slightly different in this case.
I do want to add one thing from our side too. The question has come up quite a bit of wondering if the interoperability is restricted in a similar way that maybe just only your users on your enterprise have access to Teams. Do only users on your enterprise have access to the room system interop? And when you have the Teams Gateway, that is open to any room system that wants to dial in, because that's a cloud infrastructure, so it's not hosted in your network or restricted in any way. So what that means is, as a Teams user, I could send out an invite to both internal and our external participants. And if those external participants have a conference room that they can join from, then they can connect to the Teams Gateway, assuming their network allows those outbound calls, and connect externally without any special permissions required or anything that the user who's scheduling that meeting has to do. So it's a universal interop, and because it's cloud hosted, you don't have to worry about traversing into someone else's network just to join as a guest in a call.
And do you require the desktop client to host a meeting for this?
You can actually schedule a meeting either from the Teams client on the desktop or on the browser, or even the Outlook add-in for Teams. So it should work universally. Wherever you can schedule a Teams meeting, if the user is enabled, you will be able to see the coordinates through which a device can join.
Okay, great. And oh, sorry, go ahead, Joe.
Yeah, just to clarify as well, because this has come up, this is something where scheduled Teams calls will have that additional information for connecting from room systems, but an ad hoc call from a point to point, that's not something where that additional information is available. So this is, at least right now, something that is for scheduled team calls only.
Sure. And so with these different, connections coming in using BlueJeans and using Microsoft here, what's the best way to monitor quality? So if you want to monitor the quality of the calls and things, what's the best way to monitor that?
So Teams, for quality of calls in Teams, we do have the call quality dashboard that we provide with admin portal on the Microsoft side. On the BlueJeans side, like Joe said, we do have the command center. We are adding more capabilities so that we can see some data of what Teams call quality is on the BlueJeans side and otherwise, but it's sort of an item that we are looking through. At the moment, it doesn't exist today.
Okay, and Shri, I think this is a question for you. Is Teams going to be integrated at all with Jira?
Not natively. I'm not sure about the app, whether Jira as an app, is available, but not natively, not that I know of at the moment.
Okay. Another question here. With this integration, are people, when you go to schedule a meeting, are you scheduling the meeting then using BlueJeans or Teams or from Outlook? So what's the best way to schedule these kind of meetings?
For the meetings with the cloud video interop, you have to have a user that is enabled. Like I said, this enablement can happen through PowerShell commandlet. Once that user is enabled, there is a user, going into a little bit more detail, there is a user policy that's associated with this user that says, hey, this user is enabled for interop and he has BlueJeans. Right? Once that is done, the user can go ahead to any of the place where he can schedule a Teams meetings, be it an Outlook plugin, Teams native client, mobile client, and actually schedule a meeting, and those meetings will have the additional coordinates for the devices to join via BlueJeans gateway.
Like that's one of the great things about the Teams gateway and how it's been set up is once an end user is enabled for that capability, they don't have to change anything about how they schedule meetings. The additional information to connect from a room system is automatically appended to the bottom of that invite. So then a user can still go through Outlook, go through Teams, the desktop or mobile clients to schedule these meetings, and that additional capability gets added automatically.
So in BlueJeans case as well, this would be specifically for scheduled meetings then, or is this like some people have a meeting ID they can always use? Is there a way that integrates at all, or is it you have to schedule a meeting in order to make it work?
At the moment, it's for scheduled meetings only.
All right, thank you very much. And of course, the final inevitable question: where do I go to get a recording?
Yeah, we'll be hosting that on our website. So anybody that registered today will get a follow-up email. We'll have it on there. And I couldn't help but notice Terry asked if I'm really The Rock. So I have to answer that one and say that no, I am not Dwayne Johnson. This is just a conference room here. We're in San Francisco, and we've named them after San Francisco-themed landmarks, or in this case, a movie. But I do get that question sometimes. So I appreciate you asking that one, Terry.
All right, thank you very much.
Thanks, everyone, for joining today. We appreciate all the questions and the interaction. Anything we couldn't get to, we will follow up and we'll get that recording. We're very excited to be working with Microsoft and officially launch the Teams Gateway here, and we're looking forward to speaking with you more soon.
Thanks, everybody.